It's funny thinking back to the campaign because it obviously never seemed like he really had a real chance to win, but there was something about his spirit and his dedication to these issues, and then recognizing how right he was and how important these issues were, that I think encouraged people to get involved with the campaign just to get these issues seen and heard and get them put into the forefront, even though he was a long shot candidate. And that's what enabled people like you, people like me, to get so excited about the campaign and say, I'm going to actually dedicate my time to this, and I'm going to start telling other people about this. Even if he never wins the presidency, it's so important just to get people to hear him talk about this kind of stuff. And he's impressed me so much with how he's transitioned then from running his presidential campaign with the explicit purpose of getting people to hear about these issues, and then turning all of that support that he got and all that attention that he got into a new organization going forward. And he's calling that organization Humanity Forward. What has it been like on your end to make that transition from, working with the campaign during, the presidential election to then switching to, sort of more forward thinking? How can we continue the excitement around these ideas and continue to inspire more people around the country to promote these ideas and get more influence in Congress? What has that been like to make that transition?
Well, I think for a lot of Yang Gang, the transition at first was shocking and unexpected, because it just happened so much faster and so much sooner than we expected.
Okay.
And so it was like, I've described it like this before. It felt like we were on this roller coaster and we were having so much fun, and we were like just going up this hill and going up, up and down. And then we go to the biggest hill and you get so excited. And it's like, yes. And then we went down, and instead of continuing, we just crashed into the ground.
Right.
And so it was a very hard letdown.
Yeah.
I know for Yang Gang, obviously for myself. So that part was really difficult. And I actually think I had COVID in late January.
Oh.
I got sick at the end of the campaign.
Okay.
And so while we were in like part of the time in Iowa and then part of the time in New Hampshire at the end, just before the end of the campaign, I was not even doing anything. I was alone in a hotel room because I was sick. So that was really hard. But I think once we got through that initial like pain and loss, I think it's been a lot easier for us to see, how we can continue the impact, and how, as much as it sucked that we didn't make it further, we're still really winning.
Right.
Like the fact that we're here today, what is this, December 29th, December 30th, and 2 Republican senators just said, yes, give people $2,000.
Right.
Which is insane.
It's not ongoing yet, but we're getting there, step by step.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's been a interesting transition. I think if Andrew runs for mayor, I think it'll help folks to have a solid place to put their energy again.
Yeah.
And I think it will, help us. But I think there's also been some folks who have kind of fallen off the wagon a little bit or been discouraged. And just us doing Humanity Forward stuff hasn't been enough to kind of re-engage them.
Interesting.
And so I think, so we'll see what happens. But I also know a lot of people worked really hard. I mean, there's so many people who put so much heart into this, and a break is, that's a healthy thing.
For
Taking
sure.
some space and time
Definitely
to rest.
needed.
That's a healthy thing.
For sure.
And so I think that's okay. And I hope that people are taking care of themselves, because that's a huge part of having a happy, healthy life.
Amen.
Yeah, especially this year.
Oh my God. Yeah. Right.
Oh my God.
Taking like an extra
Oh my
break and
God.
like letting yourself just not be productive, even when you're like, well, I've been home for the last like 2 months, but I am totally going to be fine with not having a productive day today.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we've all learned collectively that mental health is so important, and it's something that we take for granted, when you're kind of hustling and doing your everyday thing, and you always have that next thing in front of you. But then when you get a chance to take a longer break like this, you recognize, how much we need to put work and effort into that as well. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that's important for everybody that was involved in the campaign. Andrew, of course,
Yes.
has continued his efforts by transitioning to the Humanity Forward campaign, but also he started a podcast. Was it around April that he started his podcast as well? Right around the same time.
Yeah,
You
you're
know?
right. It is.
And
That's so true.
you had the same thought. Tell us about that. What was your inspiration for starting a podcast? You called it the Rethinking Humanity podcast, which I love because that is what this campaign has been about. It's like, these ideas are out there, but they're a little radical. They're a little they're really different from the way we've thought about it before. We really need to rethink our relationship to, humanity's place in the economy. And that title is just so excellent. What was it like getting started with that for you?
Yeah, thanks. I had an idea to start a podcast before I went on the campaign trail. I have a friend, Sonia, who I do the podcast with, that I met through a philosophy meetup group here in Atlanta, actually. And, she and I really like to talk about the themes that we talk about on the podcast. And that's just naturally what we would do. And one day I jokingly said, like, Sonia, we need to start a podcast, I'm like, just kidding. And but, we didn't think about it again and, doing campaign stuff, whatever. And then there's a guy who is a part of the Atlanta Yang Gang who also works in film. It's Victor. He's the guy that's doing all of our production stuff.
Nice.
And he is the one. It's his fault, really, because he's like, Lacey, you need to start a podcast. And I was like, So he said, I tricked you into it. He was like, because I knew that you have a voice and you needed an outlet. And after the campaign was over, you really what was your outlet anymore?
Right.
And he's like, so he said, I started a podcast just to trick you, have you on as a guest, because I thought if you got exposed to it a little bit, you would like it.
Nice.
And then he invited me to be like a co-host.
Nice.
I mean, he did like 5 episodes. Okay. And he's like, I knew that if I did that, then maybe I could get you to start a podcast. So crazy. Isn't that insane?
That's amazing.
That's really funny. He was determined.
Yes.
He thought
He
several
was.
steps ahead. He's like, okay, so I'm going to start this fake podcast. I'm going to scam her into getting on this fake podcast. Then I'm going to scam her into being a host of a different podcast, which is what I wanted all along. This is amazing.
Was it the Rethinking
It
Humanity
is.
podcast initially, or was that then started afterwards?
So his podcast that he started was Really for Real Again.
Okay.
And he did, I don't know, like 5 or 6 episodes. And then he said, Lacey, you're great. You're good at this. He's like, you need start a podcast. And if you start a podcast, he's like, I'll do all the technology stuff for you. And I was like,
Well,
okay, now you're talking.
That's a deal.
Because I don't know about that stuff.
how did we not get that deal?
Hey, I feel like I made that offer to you. What are you talking about?
Okay, well, fair. But in my defense, I then decided, well, I'm not going to have you do all of the work. I
No.
did start learning how to do some of the technology stuff too.
It's been a good journey for us, but it's funny to hear this story because our story was very similar. We were having all these conversations amongst ourselves, and we were like, we just need to start a podcast because we're having these conversations anyway. We might as well put it out there and start then talking to other people that are having similar thoughts and ideas and learn from them. So yeah, that's awesome.
Thanks for checking out this clip from our show.
To watch more clips or full episodes, click on our profile below.
If you want to stay up to date on all of our new episodes and videos, click subscribe.
And if you have any ideas for future guests or topics that you would like to see us cover on the show,
Leave us a message in the comments or connect with us on any of our social media channels at Funtime Program.
or on our website at funtimeprogram.com.
We'll see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.